Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Heroes, AMC's Heroes. I am Jon Schnepp. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's episode 11 of Heroes, and with me are two people you've probably never seen before in your entire life, unless you've watched AMC Movie Talk. I've got John Campea sitting right next to me. John.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
And our very special guest. He's you've known him from ThinkHero. His name is Dennis Tzeng.
Tzeng.
It's Dennis Tzeng.
Thanks for having me. It's my debut on AMC
Oh,
Heroes.
yeah,
this
Never
is
been
your
on the
first-
show before.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
You'd think
I
the
knew
guy
you
who runs ThinkHero would have been on Heroes.
And yet
or something.
our pre-show conveation was about how we used to pay for internet.
right. We were all making
Like-
the internet sound
Like by the hour. $5 an hour.
Yeah, there was a thing called modems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I was like just saying how I would go to a coffee house or something, but you guys were talking about like an actual countdown that would
Yeah.
show up on your computer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you had to pay by the hour. It was
Yeah.
like some sort of what do you call it? Like sex phone line or something like that.
I still remember the internet speeds. I still remember the very first time I ever tried to download a piece of pornography, like a porn video, and I think it was going to be like
Took you 30 days.
It was going to be like a short, like 1 minute thing, and it was going to take like 2 hours. But man, I committed that 2 hours to get that 1 minute of goodness.
Welcome to AMC Porn.
That's right. Well, let's go into another world called superheroes. This is the cinematic world of superheroes. Today, we're going to talk about our first topic. It's Civil War set pics. It's an explosion of pictures from Captain America: Civil War. We've got funerals for a friend that would, I don't know if we want to put those spoilers out there, but they released it yesterday who it was. We've got Crossbones with his mask, without his mask, with the scars. We've got Captain America and the Falcon, and you've got Scarlet Witch. You've got Black Widow. Everybody's involved. Everybody's fighting each other. It looks insane and filled with action. What do you guys think? Dennis, let's start with you.
Well, the funeral, I also got spoiled because I was trying to look up these pictures, and I was like, oh, that's who it is. It's almost like a spoiler to say that it's not really a spoiler to find out who it is.
Right.
I think the pictures look great, especially, it's not on this picture, but they have Crossbones' like helmet with the skull on it. It looks badass.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm most excited about. And then we were talking with Jonathan and you earlier about how, look how exciting that Scarlet Witch photo is of her with her Fiji water bottle.
Lots of action going on.
Yeah.
She's walking slowly towards some carnage, maybe.
Yeah.
She's drinking the best bottled water you could possibly have, Fiji. Let me just say that's delicious.
That's because she's in the Avengers now.
That's
so
what
you get the
get
good
nothing
water
but the
at that
best.
point.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I think it looks great, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and there was pictures of the Falcon and his brand new outfit, which I think looks great. It's very much like Cap's outfit. It's a little derivation therein. But him like fighting, flying around, fighting, like, I guess it's Crossbones guys. They're all jumping out of a tanker. I mean, it's fun to see this this is what I love about like these behind the scenes set photos where it's not just a big giant green screen. They're on a street. They're doing something. It's action involved, and it's kind of fun. It makes me feel like I guess I'm in the 80s again. That's what it feels like.
Well, the first thing that jumped out to me when I looked at the picture was digging the new every Captain America movie, slight variation. I still think the first Captain America costume in Captain America: The First Avenger is still my favorite, but this is a real nice blend of that original with some updating. I think it looks really great. But here's what I'm thinking. I'm not basing this on anything, so this is just me speculating. I think Crossbones is going to be in like 5 minutes of this movie. I think he's going to have a role in this movie, much like George St. Pierre had in the last, where he's Gatroc. Is that who he played?
Batroc.
Batroc. Where, hey, George St. Pierre's playing Batroc, and Batroc was there for 5 minutes to have one fight and be taken down. Or, damn it, what's the? That's a spoiler, I guess. I won't go into that, but. So I just got a feeling that the set picture we're seeing here, there's some kind of street battle. I think Crossbones is going to be involved, and I think Crossbones is going to be taken down right away and get out of the way because they've got 341 other characters they need to parade in and out of the movie to spend screen time on. So I just think they're going to deal with him fast, and he's going to be out of the picture. I don't see him playing a long role in the film. Hope I'm wrong, though, because I actually really like him. Yeah. So we'll see how that turns out.
I agree with you about the Captain America suit because I was not a fan of the one he wore in the first Avengers movie.
Agreed, yeah.
It looked kind of cheesy to me. And so like this one looks much more, it's kind of like a combination between a modern look and the old first Avenger outfit.
Actual army look.
It looks like a combat outfit as opposed to a costume.
Yes, exactly. And the other thing I want to say about the Crossbones thing, it looks badass, and it's great that even behind the scenes photos, it looks badass. Because most of the time with a lot of these superhero or comic book movies, we see them, like remember that Magneto from First Class?
Yes.
Everyone went in an uproar about how stupid it looked, but then when it was on camera, it looked fine. And so it's kind of cool that even these shots look good.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, well, let's move on. Number 2, but not in least of importance, we've got Joker and Harley Quinn meeting up in the streets. That's right, it's street action, and those tats are for real, son. Joker's got all those tats that we were not sure if that was really going to be part of his brand new Joker persona that Jared Leto's got. He's rocking it out in a glam outfit, and we've got pictures of Harley Quinn holding a gun to his head. He's getting out of some kind of cherry bright purple Lamborghini, some sports car that's got the ha-ha at the end of it.
Yep.
I mean, it's like these photos to me, I'll just say I'll start off. I think it's fantastic, and I think this iteration of the Joker to me, I'm very excited about. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, how he's like a combination of some of the new and older portrayals of the Joker. He's got a little of that Dark Knight, the Frank Miller Dark Knight craziness in it. John, you were mentioning Night of the Rock.
Night Actor Rocksmith. What is love? Yeah. I'm just expecting him to start doing this with his head.
Oh, man. Which would be fantastic. We were half joking, like when he opens the door to have that song playing.
He's listening
that
to
would be
car.
awesome.
It would be kind of awesome, but I really am digging this, even just from the stills. I didn't get to actually see any of the video. It got pulled. You guys saw it. So I just think it's just this different energy and crazy creepiness that I really like. And I like Harley's kind of badass attitude. So without knowing anything about the scene, whether it's a flashback or it's part of the story of, he gets out and then he jerks her over and then she wants revenge. Who knows what this is, but it's exciting. Let's start with you, John. What do you think?
I'm a fan of it. I am. It's funny because I saw the pictures after I saw the video, but the video really didn't give anything away other than you see Joker get out of the car, and just for a second, because his head's turned the right way, you get a glimpse of his head, but then it's his back to the camera, and you don't even see Harley Quinn. Now, in the pictures we see, she's got a gun to his head, but from the video, you never knew that because he's blocking it. So seeing this is really cool. The tattoos, once again, my mind hasn't changed the tattoos. I think the tattoos are fine. I think they work, and I think they're consistent with what a modern psychopath would be. I'm still not thrilled with damaged on his head. Like I said, to me, that just feels a little bit too much on the nose. So I'm not thrilled with it, but who knows? There might be a plot device in the movie that makes that seem awesome. So let's give it the benefit of the doubt for now. One of the things we talked about yesterday too was that the thing that stands out is Harley is in no Harley outfit. No Harley outfit. Mm-hmm. That's she's just she's sporting the black jeans and the blue button-up shirt, and even then she manages to make it look incredibly hot. There's Margot Robbie for you. So, but I think that just plays into the fact that don't worry, everybody. I think Harley's going to have like 5, 6, 7, 8 iterations of a Harley Quinn outfit. The fact that she's still a regular person, has to walk around in public sometimes, I think don't think we should be thrown off by that. Right. So I got to tell you, I know a lot of people were very, very concerned. We might as well address that. There were a lot of people I read online that were really concerned by the look. Right. And all I can say is if you are, I get it, but you're probably somebody who hasn't read The Dark Knight Returns. Right. This is an homage to The Dark Knight Returns. There's a little bit of Cesar Romero in there too, but this is definitely a Dark Knight Returns kind of look they're going for. And as such, I really
very fey and glammy and glitzy. Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, you guys mentioned Cesar Romero, and definitely get a vibe of that. I like the pictures. Yeah, I'm with you though with the damaged tattoo on the forehead, but I kind of feel the same way about the Lamborghini with the ha 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 on it as well. That's a little too on the nose as well. Has there been anything as controversial as this since probably like Ben Affleck getting cast as Batman? Because people are going nuts over like either people are loving it or people are just absolutely hate it. And a lot of people, when that one first image came out with the tattoos and the damage, people are like, oh, this is just an anniversary picture. It's a promotion picture. Those tattoos aren't going to be in the movie, blah, blah, blah. Now we got confirmation because we've seen more set pictures where you can see the tattoos everywhere. So they're definitely in there. and a lot of people are going to be really pissed off about that.
Well, you know what? I just got to go back to The Dark Knight when some set photos and some stuff leaked with Heath Ledger where you saw that it was not, his skin is not dyed white. He just puts it on as makeup, and people went nuts.
Lost their
minds.
And they had already been
around
losing
the
their
streets.
minds.
Yeah, naked, running. This is not my Joker. This is not my Joker. Like screaming, crying about it. And then the movie comes out and they're like sucking on it. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're
more than that now. Those same people that if you say was Heath Ledger's Joker the greatest supporting actor performance in any movie of all time, if you don't say yes, those same people were running through the streets with their pitchforks crying. Now they're going to call you, call your mother all types of names.
Don't you know he won an Oscar for that?
Yeah.
It's like, you're right. I mean, it's like the fan reaction, unfortunately, that, you know, all of us are guilty of this sometimes. We hold these characters very close to our hearts, and certain characters more so than others. And people who love the Joker or grew up with the Joker, and then this certain Joker was theirs. Some people it's Jack Nicholson, some people it's Heath Ledger, some people it's Cesar Romero. You know, so it's like there's all these different Jokers, and there's going to be this Joker for some people, and I think there's going to be this Joker for a lot of people. So it's jury's out, but I'm going to wait until I actually see it. I don't mind it being that different. I mean, the tattoos, when I first saw the pictures of it, I was like, it's a little too much. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of got into it. It definitely has that Jim Lee, you know, the Joker tattoos all over his body type thing. More of a violent / sado creepy. I don't know how they're going to play it. It just seems like I'm excited about that because it's different.
You know what's funny? Sorry, just to go back to something you and I were talking about this once, and you raised what I think is a brilliant point that doesn't get discussed enough, and that is, you know, whenever there's alterations of a character on the big screen, people lose their minds. But you know what? If you read a comic series, they will massively make changes to characters, like from writer to writer, you know, storyline to storyline, iteration to iteration. It happens all the time. It reminds me of this one story. Bryan Singer, you remember this story. Bryan Singer goes to Comic-Con taking Superman Returns. The movie hadn't come out yet. And he brought, there was one of the first big movies to be brought to Comic-Con. And people were saying, so, excuse me, like one of the questions was, why did you change the Superman outfit? And Singer gave a brilliant answer. He said, changed it from what? There are 23 different iterations of the Superman costume in the history of the comic books. Which one are you talking about that I changed it from? And that's the case. Like, if this was a change in the comic, nobody would bat an eye. Okay, they changed it in the comic. Right. As soon as like another creative medium takes some liberties and does some changes to make it, everybody loses mind, says it's not faithful to the canon. Okay, well, which version of the Joker you're talking about? Because there's about 45.
Yeah.
So
I
mean,
one recently where he cut his own face off wearing
Yeah,
his skin.
that one was
Yeah.
creepy.
That's super
From
creepy.
Death of the Family.
Yeah. I mean, that's some messed up stuff.
Wasn't there also photos of Jared Leto, like, and he's like super buff, like he like got really into
got
shape.
himself really in shape.
So that's definitely a little different than what we're used to.
Well, it might be like we talked about before, but it might signal in no Batman iteration have I ever really seen that legitimately Batman can walk into a room and the Joker can walk in a room and they can have fisticuffs.
Yeah.
Like that's just never happened. Joker has to pull something or he has to have 8 henchmen. It's just a picture of him being muscular, but maybe they're saying this Joker is somebody who can actually fight Batman. That's interesting.
And that's even scarier.
Very scary, very scary.
Let's move on. Talking about the Joker, let's talk about his pal Lex Luthor. Will Lex Luthor wear the armor? And will Doomsday show up in Batman v Superman? So here's a rumor mill. It's a whole bunch of rumors we're going around this week. We're not saying any of these are confirmed, but everyone was getting sweaty on all different kinds of websites. Rumor overload. This time it's Doomsday. He's going to be showing up. And then also people are talking about Lex Luthor showing up in his armor that, you know, has been throughout all the comic books and video games and animated series. So what do you think? What do you think, John?
I don't feel good about either of them, actually. From the Doomsday point of view, I don't know how Doomsday serves the narrative. I don't know how Doomsday serves the story that WB is kind of presenting us with right now. We've got Batman versus Superman. There's a lot going up. That first trailer I thought was just pure genius. The way it shows what the real fallout of the world realizing there's an alien being in this world. Some people looking at him as a messiah figure. Some people looking at him as a threat. The world trying to figure out what to do with him. Him trying to figure out what it means for himself. And then Batman, throw that into the mix and all that kind of stuff. Where does... Oh, and by the way, Doomsday shows up. What do you do with that? How does that fit? And with a character like Doomsday, a machine like Doomsday, it seems premature to bring him in now. It feels to me like he's a Thanos kind of character. I mean, you bring Doomsday in later. Now, it might be true. Maybe he is. I'm just saying for me on the outside, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But the other thing is this. What does Batman do against Doomsday? I mean, Doomsday kills Superman. What's Batman going to do against Doomsday? I'm not really sure. So how does that play into the dynamics of Batman v Superman? I'm not sure. With the Lex Luthor thing, same feelings. I feel like it's too early. Do I think they will go into Lex Luthor developing battle armor? Yes. Do I think they're going to do that in the very first movie right out of the gate? Feels premature to me, but very well could be true. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's absolutely not. It just doesn't sit right with me right now. What do you think, Dennis?
I'm fine with Doomsday as long as they do it like Thanos, where they show a cameo of him and he's not the villain of the movie, and they're just kind of prepping it, and maybe they're going to use
foreshadowing it a bit.
Yeah, and for maybe he's the main villain for Justice League. As far as Lex Luthor is concerned, yeah, I don't want him to show up in the armor because it is too soon, because you already have Batman in his armor, right? And then you don't want to have Batman in his armor and then Lex in his armor and then all this stuff. It's just gonna be too much too soon. If they are developing it and they show him like in the laboratories working on it, that's fine. But yeah, both of those things, if they're just small little kind of like hints and foreshadowing, that's okay. But if they're a main part of it, it's just too much.
I think some of the rumors that I was reading online, one of the things I really liked is them saying Lex Luthor borrows some of the Kryptonian armor left from all those damaged Kryptonians that Superman fought at the end of Man of Steel, and is reverse engineering it to make this set of this armor that he has. Whether or not he's going to wear it, I agree. They might show him like developing it. It's like the purple and green suit or whatever. Maybe it has some kryptonite in it or whatever. So I think that would be cool to just like show that, but not have him like, I'm super powered now fighting Doomsday. On the other hand, I think it could be another interesting takeaway from Zod. You know, a lot of rumors, a lot of different scripts have been out there. You know, some say they're fake, some say they're real. Who knows what's real anymore? But, you know, if I was to say that a script that I read was particularly maybe a version of the script and it had Zod and they were like using his genetics and that's how Doomsday is born, like as a killing machine, that makes more sense to me than like the Doomsday origin that's in the comic books where it's like raised as a baby and thrown on a planet.
Which, by the way, I love the Doomsday origin in the comics. I think this is brilliant, but I don't think it. I think you're right. Doesn't work here.
Doesn't work cinematically. But I mean, no. I mean, there's so many fantastical things that work in comics because comics have this entire fabric woven around them to support that kind of fantastical insanity. But if it's just to be plopped down in the Man of Steel, it would just be a little too much.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree.
You know, it's like, it'd be like, and then the race of the green people, and don't forget ostrich heads, and then they'd show up. It'd be like, what's going on? You know, it's just too much. I think, especially for the second film in the cinematic universe of DC. They're reverse engineering in Avengers right now. They're like, you know, they're introducing everybody and they're basically having the Avengers before they sprinkle out into like their individual movies. I guess we're going to get a Flash before we get a Justice League. That's right.
No, I think Flash is 2018, I think.
So it's after the first Justice League?
It should be. I think so, yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, we're getting everything faster. So they do have a lot of work to do in this movie. And this is not the sequel to this isn't Man of Steel 2, even though it's in the you know, it's part of the storyline and it deals with the destruction of Metropolis, but that destruction of Metropolis brings in all these other heroes that were like, you know, lying dormant in the Man of Steel. So that's the kind of exciting thing. I'm looking forward to seeing how all these other characters interact in a 2.5 hour movie. That's a lot of stuff to cram in, but it can be done great. I mean, we've seen it done in Avengers. We've seen it done in Watchmen. I mean, Zack Snyder handled Watchmen quite amazingly. So I have good confidence that he'll be handling, you know, this film and dealing with juggling all these characters. I don't think Lex Luthor is going to be showing up with the body armor
and fighting Superman already.
I do think that Doomsday is going to show up at the very end of the movie. So,
do you guys think there's going to be a post-credit scene, like one of these two things showing up as a post-credit scene?
Ooh, that's more specific.
Yeah.
I could see the Doomsday thing being.
I see.
No post-credit scene?
I see a Justice League member as the post-credit scene. I see a Justice League member that is not in the film as a post-credit scene, whether it's a Hal Jordan or whether it's, Ezra Miller or whether it's somebody like that. But that would be pretty cool if all of a sudden you go into the deepest darkness of space and the camera pans around and it just comes in super tight on these closed gray bony eyes, and then these eyes open, and then that's it. That would be
people will lose their minds.
Oh, they would lose their crap.
I would rather Lex Luthor create like the Hall of Doom, or what were they called? The Legion of Doom.
The Legion of Doom.
That would be fun. Like, he's like, I'm glad you've all shown
with
up.
that Darth Vader helmet that's sunk into the swamp.
I know, right? It's too badass. And maybe it's just rising out. There's like 4 or 5 dudes in suits who are those villains, and he's like, check out our new club. You know what I mean?
Where do I park?
Yeah, right. It's like, the parking's right under the skull. All right, let's move on to a section that I like to call minor mutations. It's like little quick news bits, and we're just going to rattle through them, and then we'll talk about all of them. The very first one, Chris Miller and Phil Lord say that Barry Allen is their movie Flash. It doesn't matter that there's a TV Barry Allen. There's also going to be a movie Barry Allen. Batman v Superman, Jim Lee's chokeout. There's an homage promo art piece that it's pretty fantastic. It's taken out of I think it's one of the issues from the Batman run that Jim Lee was doing, where Superman's just choking Batman out. But this is promo art using the actual Man of Steel Superman outfit from Man of Steel and Batman's I guess the armor that Ben Affleck's going to be wearing. And then last but not least, Lobo's director talks about why the movie itself fell apart. That it was going to star Dwayne Johnson and it just didn't work out. So let's talk about those things.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Lobo thing, I was reading that the other day, actually, and it made sense why, like, a lot of people lament the fact that we didn't get a Lobo. I mean, I'm notorious for saying The Rock would be good in just about anything, but The Rock really would have been a good Lobo. I mean, he would have been a really good Lobo. But the explanation that the director gives actually makes perfect sense. Yeah. It really does. It was not the right time for a Lobo film yet. And, unfortunately now, unfortunate for the Lobo property at any rate, The Rock's now committed to another role in the DC Cinematic Universe, so we're not going to see that. I got the feeling from it that we're going to see Lobo at some point. I really do think that's going to come at some point. So that's the one that stands out to me.
Yeah. What about you, Dennis?
Yeah, I was very interested in a rock-starred Lobo one, but it does make sense. He's talking about, especially for the DC universe, they haven't built up their cinematic universe like Marvel has, and that's why they could have rolled the dice with a Guardians of the Galaxy and now Ant-Man this year, where DC is still like Batman v. That's kind of why they're bringing out Batman v Superman. They're like, okay, these are the two characters that everybody knows. Let's get everyone into that. Then we can branch out. They're kind of, you guys talked about before. It's the reverse of what Marvel is doing. The Batman v Superman promo images look cool. I was a huge Jim Lee fan back in the 90s. Him and Todd McFarlane were my 2 favorite artists. And it's kind of cool. He is not exactly like Jim Lee style, but you can see kind of a little influence there in those
especially
pictures.
The top one's right off of a cover of Batman. Yeah. It's an exact, like a swipe.
Yeah, like all it is. Like there's some people who I've been reading online saying, "Oh, this is concept art for the movie." No. This is just taking a couple classic shots and putting. It's just a cool little thing. Putting a cool thing. What's more interesting to me than that art, though, is the Barry Allen thing.
Yeah.
That we were mentioning this earlier on the show. That I think. The fact that Lord Miller is saying that Ezra Miller is playing Barry Allen, I think that puts the exclamation point on what Warner Brothers has been saying all along, that the DC television and movie universes are, at least for the foreseeable future, they're going to be seen as 2 totally separate things. They're not crossing them over. But who knows? I mean, nothing says what couldn't happen in 10 years, but it sounds like they have no plans to cross these things over.
And I like it. I mean, I actually like that Marvel is saying that their TV and movie properties are together. And DC's like, well, we're separate because, I mean, like we were talking about earlier on the other show, is like, that gives them the perfect, like, Earth 1, Earth 2.
Yeah, if they wanted to.
And the Flash is that binding character who crosses through those planets by using his vibrational powers or whatever. That's how I think how the Crisis on Infinite Earth started, is like a weird, Flash showed up as visions to all the other superheroes, like, you've got to help me, I'm dying. He was all skeletal and freaky, it was like, and then everybody started dying. Supergirl died, all these different characters died, and then all the Earths collapsed and became a brand new universe. So it's like, it's a good housekeeping mechanism. If things get too messy.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's real simple. That's why they keep doing it. But it works. For me, Lobo, it was definitely a good thing to hear about why Lobo disappeared.
Yeah.
But the director got to work with The Rock anyway. He's the same director who did San Andreas with the action scene with The Rock. So you know, it all kind of worked out for those guys. But he was lamenting Lobo because it seems like the script was a lot of fun, but it's in that same Ant-Man zone like we're talking about. It's not ready. You can't do Ant-Man until you've developed all these other characters, or if you do, it has to fit into that world. So henceforth, why even Edgar Wright's script originally it was its own kind of world, and then it just was delayed so much so that it didn't fit in. You know.
And Lobo's a character we know, but most of the general audience doesn't know. He was, I think, initially created as kind of like almost like a parody of Wolverine. Like they wanted to do even someone that was an anti-hero even more over the top.
His first appearance was in a comic book called The Omega Men. Yeah, which is just, and he had a weird orange outfit and he rode on a weird orange bike. Didn't look like the badass Lobo that we know. He looked kind of like loopy. He was like, hey, I'm a clown, you know?
And it's funny that you mentioned that because remember that big amalgam crossover where the DC heroes had to fight the Marvel heroes and whichever ones prevailed, their universe is saved, right? And the fans got to vote. And it's Superman versus Hulk, Wonder Woman versus Storm, Aquaman versus Namor. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Lobo versus Wolverine.
I think so.
I think that was the one they said. I can't remember which one they had win, but it was Lobo versus Wolverine.
All the fans won. That's
The
what
fans won.
Hey, here we go. We're going to launch into superhero flashback. Every week we talk about a different movie of a property that, you know, was made into a comic book property that was made into a film. This week we are going to talk about the one and only Conan the Barbarian. Dun, 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 dun. Arnold Schwarzenegger played the role he was born to play, Conan the Barbarian, from a script by Oliver Stone and John Milius and directed by John Milius. This gory, savage, bloody epic still plays as high adventure even now when you watch it, thanks to the theme score from Basil Polidoris. Performances by James Earl Jones as Thulsa Doom, a freaky snake warlock who's, you know, that Conan has to get his revenge on. Let's talk about the one of the more exciting films that graced our comic book world, Conan.
Well, I mean, look, when's the last time you saw a movie where the hero of the movie is in the movie and he does not speak for the first half of the movie? It's not quite the first half of the movie, but I think it's like 20 something plus minutes before he finally speaks. And it's Conan, what is best in life? To destroy your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women.
The cries and lamentations of the women.
I mean, that's like, there you go. Now we're going. Now it's a party. Yeah. Like, this movie is just so raw. It's so visceral. It's like, it's a movie whose engine is propelled by testosterone. And that's a good thing for a movie like this. It's just one of those movies that you do. You know, it's kind of funny. A few years ago, me and some buddies of mine did a DVD commentary to Conan. It was just one of those things where we just watch the movie, then record ourselves onto an MP3, and then we let people just download it to watch it with their movies and whatever. We should probally do that sometime. That could be fun. Awesome. But we did it for Conan. Such a classic. It's just that it's Arnold at his most Arnold. Notice I'm not saying Arnold at his best, but it is Arnold. It is the quintessential Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what you get. He was so freaking huge. Like, it's just not human when you look at what Arnold Schwarzenegger used to look like. It's crazy. But yeah, I love this movie. The score. The Basil Polidoris score of this movie is just so, you know, it's great. I love this movie.
Yeah, everyone identifies Arnold with this character or Terminator. It's either Conan or Terminator. And they're talking about possibly doing another Conan.
He says it's happening. He says
King
Conan. He says he says it's going to happen. That I haven't heard about a green light and I haven't heard about shooting schedules, but he says the script's done and they're going to do it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely a classic. And then James Earl Jones is what's the villain's name?
Thulsa Doom. Come, my child. I know. That is one of the freakiest scenes.
I know.
Come. Oh my, Darth Vader, you villain.
Yeah. And then why does Conan hate animals so much? Because in this one,
punches a camel.
Yeah, I think he punches a horse or something like that.
Or a horse.
And then he also bites like a bird or vulture's like head off or something like that.
Let's be fair. The vulture was trying to eat it.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
He was like
tied up to the tree of life. You know, he had to, Dennis.
Yes, but yeah, this is a classic, and I love it. I think I watched it or rewatched it a couple of years ago, and I need to rewatch it again.
It's got great designs by Ron Cobb, one of these amazing artists. Stout, I think, did a bunch of designs. It's got a lot of really cool designers involved. I really love this film because it also has an amazing pace to it. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it doesn't have a lot of edits and a lot of cuts. It's just really good storytelling. It tells you the entire story of Conan from when he was born and his dad and how he got this sword. What is the riddle of steel? And you discover this over the time of the movie and him getting his revenge. So,
Although how bad? Now in hindsight, okay, we're in 2015. That I gotta fight off them ghosts coming to take her away. How bad did that look?
But hey, look, they could have, that animation, look, it was like Fantasia did a better job.
Oh,
of
yeah.
those, and that was like in the 50s. It was kind of a little bit of that rotoscope stuff. It just didn't.
But at the time,
even at the time, I remember I was a little sketchy even at the time.
But one of my all-time favorite, I love monologues, like really well done monologues in movies, whether it's a moment of like a prayer or somebody talking to themselves or talking to their dead wife or whatever. One of my all-time favorites is in this movie. Conan is getting ready for the big final showdown.
Yeah.
And he's praying to Crom, and it's just impassioned and pouring out his heart, and there's all this visceral, and in it, and then he ends, and if you do not help me, to hell with you. Like one of the great monologue / prayer moments.
Good Schwarzenegger impression. To hell with you. Where's Harloff when you need him? Yeah. So yeah, that's a great film. If you guys haven't seen Conan the Barbarian, I don't know what's wrong with you. Get on that immediately. I think you could skip Conan the Destroyer. Just see it as a joke. It's the second Conan movie.
It's fun.
It has its moments.
Fun moments.
It just doesn't compare though. When
No,
you
it
have something
doesn't.
this epic and amazing, and then that movie came out, it was a disappointment. Now you could watch it as kind of like a little chuckle. Like if you want an extra adventure of Conan, where they they go and do some really cool things, just on a much cheaper level and lower budget and worse directing and bad writing. So, it's like this thing where it's like they tried, but it just didn't work out.
I hate wizards.
Yeah,
Yes, and
that's
don't
right.
watch the remake with Jason Momoa either.
No, yeah, unfortunately.
Do yourself a favor though. Watch the first 5 minutes of the
the first 5 minutes are
First
good.
5 minutes. The really bad thing about the first 5 minutes of the remake is that it makes you believe this movie's going to be awesome.
You're right.
And then it's like,
yeah. I mean, it's like, the first 5 minutes are really, they set it up really good. And then you're like, what? Just now it's going downhill right away with the fruit baskets and right away, literally downhill. So let's go to Spotlight. Here we go. What superhero character that's a comic book right now that should become a movie? Well, this week I picked Mr. X. It's created by Dean Motter and Paul Ravoch. It was published by this imprint called Vortex. There's a storyline, the very first storyline, because the artist and creator couldn't actually get it together enough. They just did all these amazing concept designs and then couldn't figure out a way to tell the story. So they hired the Hernandez brothers of Love and Rockets fame to do the first 4 issues. And one of my favorite artists, Jaime Hernandez, did an incredible adaptation of what Paul Ravoch had already designed for Radiant City and this strange bald-headed guy with a trench coat. And the storyline was kind of there. He built this city. He never sleeps. He takes this weird drug and he built this kind of changing, moving city that's almost like alive on its own. And the people who live there slowly go insane because walls change, things open up, and it's a very weird storyline. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Mr. X. It came out in the 80s.
No, I remember you sent out the note. One of the things I love about Superhero Spotlight is that, although I've been reading comics since I was a kid, I was always very much a mainstream comic reader, right? With the odd side ones and things like that. One of the reasons I love this segment so much is because you introduced the Sword. I started reading the Sword. I haven't finished it, but I started reading the Sword.
How far are you in the Sword?
I'm the first issue in so far, so I gotta read the rest.
Did you find the Sword yet?
No.
Okay.
So
it's not a spoiler. It's called The Sword, and it's on the cover.
The comic is called The Sword. I think you're okay. And this that you introduce some of these characters that have not been a part of my mainstream reading, and it's like what was that one we did? Nemesis was so freaking awesome. This looks incredible because I got your show notes last night. I'm like, hey, I haven't heard of this one. I started reading up. I was like, this sounds badass. But so, did you like it? Do you like?
I highly recommend the first 4 issues. Like I said, done by Jaime and his brothers. The Hernandez brothers did this great adaptation. When Dean Motter, who took over the series as a writer, it just didn't have, he conceptualized it, and years later he did a couple of issues. So there's a collected book that you can just get called Mr. X, which has those first 4 issues, has like 10 or so other issues. And if you get that newest collection, that has I think the best way to read Mr. X. It's got because they tried it over many, many different years. And it's the design sensibility, which is something that just cuts through. It has this really weird. It's like it was compared to, it's been compared to like Dark City, a lot of other movies like Brazil had jumping off points, and using Mr. X as kind of like a cool, like I'm sure some of the art directors or production designers were like, flipping through, books or posters of Paul Ravoch's art, because that guy is a genius. He's not the fastest artist. He doesn't have a giant body of work, but he's an incredible artist when you look his stuff up. Yeah, I would highly recommend those first 4 issues, because something about that, they were able to just take the general idea that Dean Motter had come up with, using the idea with the artwork that Ravoch had, adding their ability to tell stories, and then that's why it's so entertaining and fun.
Well, as the guy at the table who's read it, then let me ask you, what is it about it? Why do you think this one would make a good movie adaptation?
It would make a good movie adaptation because it has like a very cool mystery vibe to it. Like, not film noir, it's more like it just has this kind of science fiction mystery. And that's something that I like to see. I would like to see the visuals that are done in this comic book. I'd like to see them come to life, and I'd like to see some of the weirder storylines with like robot cops that kind of float along, and it's just got really cool like motifs that just go throughout those first 4 issues and throughout many of the other issues too. I mean, I just think it would make a really cool science fiction mystery.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Twitter questions. You guys have written some in, and we've picked some out for you. So number 1 was Andy Ward, and he's asked, do you guys think we'll ever see a DC Marvel amalgam universe film? And if so, who would have the rights? You were just talking about the amalgam.
Yeah, no, that'll never happen. And I don't want it to happen.
Amalgam's just amalgam's a weird thing. I don't know. Was there a picture? Did anybody find a picture for it? All right.
Not.
Well, amalgam is, if you guys don't know what amalgam is, it's sort of like DC and Marvel have always had this kind of like, the other competition. They've always had this, the distinguished competition was DC, and the way, like they've had this back and forth, like who's better type of thing. And they've always been the big two. And at a certain point, I think it was in the late 90s, they were like, hey, man, somebody made a crazy suggestion. It was like, let's just team up and do these weird crossover books. Like, what if we crossed Wolverine and Batman, and they got this character called Darkclaw, and they just did a 1 issue. So they did these weird 1 issues of like Doom Force, where it was like Doom Patrol and X-Force, all these bizarro issues. They had some of the, the greatest comic book writers and artists of that time do these one-shots. And they were really fun, especially if you were a comics nerd. It was like, so, it's like, it didn't have any weight to it. It didn't matter. It was like fun. If you like DC Comics, you like Marvel Comics, here's this weird version of these, a melding of the two. And that's all it was. It was very successful. And they did it again like 2 years later. And then as things usually happen, then they went back at war and were like, we're never going to team up again. So then they later did that one that you were talking about, where they had their individual characters fight each other's individual characters, and fans could call in. But they've never really revisited this amalgam universe, and for good reason. It was just kind of a fun company versus company fun thing. So I don't see it as a movie. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, DC and Marvel have historically always been fairly friendly with each other, which is not the case in the fan community, at all. If you said something good about Marvel, you hate DC then. I'll never understand those people. But here's the problem, though. Who would own the rights? It would obviously be a rights shared issue. Now, if you're talking about a Dark Claw situation, that's one type of scenario. If you're talking about like where the superheroes had to match up against each other, that becomes just a big bloody mess. Because that's cool and everything to read in 2 or 3 issues of comics, which take 5 minutes to read. It's different trying to make a 2-hour movie. Nobody would be satisfied. I think it would just be a big visual blob fest of a mess. So I would never want to see it, and I don't think you could ever get those things lined up right to make it happen either. I wouldn't mind a Dark Claw movie, but here's the problem though. Those of us who read comics, we think everybody knows what we're talking about. And I think the average, if I go out over to AMC right now and just interview some people coming out, average film goer, and say, would you be interested in a movie called Dark Claw, where it's Batman combined with Wolverine? They're going to look at me like I'm an idiot. Yeah. So I just don't think it would happen.
Yeah,
even though I'd want to see it.
They probably thought you created it and drew it in like in your little notebook.
Well, they already think I'm an idiot.
Or they think you're talking about like, Donald Duck, Darkwing. Like, you mean Donald Duck as Darkclaw?
That sounds delightful.
But people forget that. Remember, DC at one point almost bought Marvel. Remember, Marvel was like almost bankrupt, but that never happened. That was kind of the only time you ever see this happen. I remember collecting some of the Amalgam comics when they first. I did not like them. I thought Dark Claw looked stupid. I thought a lot of them looked stupid. Now you're talking about them fighting each other. That's a different story. I'm interested in that. However, I think either scenario, both companies as movie studios would have to be pretty desperate. It has to be a time where, I don't know, all the super movies have failed and they're just so desperate for cash. So it's like, let's do a movie that has Batman and Spider-Man together. So
you know what it is? Here's what it is. It's that whole, what was the video that was floating around YouTube recently? Was it Green Ranger versus Scorpion from Mortal Kombat?
Yes.
I think so, right? So that goes, oh my gosh, you got to make a movie out of that. No, you don't. It was a good, fun 5-minute YouTube clip. You know what they could do if Warner Brothers and Marvel and Disney wanted to have some fun. If they want to have some fun, make a little web series out of it where you don't have to tell a movie because that would just be a big bloody mess. But say, have an opening crawl. There's a crashing of the universes together, and now the heroes of this universe have to battle the heroes of the others to save their individual reality. And then you just bring out Henry Cavill as Superman, bring out Mark Ruffalo, who then turns to the Hulk, have them fight for 2 minutes and make a little 2-minute video out of that. Then have Chris Evans as Captain America, Ben Affleck as Batman. They start going out, make it a little 2-minute video out of that. That could be really fun and cool. A motion picture, though, nah.
Well, they already have that with Superhero Beatdown. I mean, that's one of the fun things on the web where these guys just like have Thor fight Superman, and the special effects are pretty good. I mean, they have these professionals come in and give some of their time, and the compositing is great. They did Batman versus Darth Vader, which was fantastic. I mean, I love that. It's like 3 minutes, and it's like they've captured Superman. Darth Vader's captured Superman. Where's the Kryptonian? I mean, it's like that kind of geeky stuff where you're like, yeah, where's the Kryptonian? Get him, Batman. Is that a real movie? Hell no. Do I want to see this happen? Hell yes. It's like amazingly fun to see Batman bust out a lightsaber and fight Darth Vader. It's stupid, but it's awesome. So I mean,
it's a bat saber.
A bat saber.
Yeah.
Sorry, I stand corrected. Well, that was so much fun when I saw that. I mean, I've watched all those superhero beatdowns, and they're really fun. It's like Wolverine. I think it was like, I can't remember who Deadpool fought. Oh, they fight everybody. So it's like, it's that kind of thing. I mean, if Disney really wanted to rock it, they would do like Captain America and Mickey Mouse versus Darth Vader. They own all those characters.
And you got to get Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Bring in the actual movie guys.
Yeah, Chris Evans, have Kermit the Frog play Deadpool. Or no, Deadpool's Fox. Sorry, can't do that. Have Kermit the Frog show up, like jumping around doing something. He's in a land speeder, like but a Muppet-sized one. I know this sounds like heresy, but if it was like a 2-minute little fun thing,
little online specials,
yeah, there's no weight to that stuff, and it's really fun. And mashups are where it's at. You know why it's where it's at? Because it's fun. That's why people are like, why are they crossing over all these characters? Because it's fun.
Yeah, and like I said, don't take it so seriously. Yeah. Oh, we don't have to make a movie out of it. No. Do some fun web stuff. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah, I think, if any of this sparked any ideas for anybody watching this, go make a web series and let us know when you post it. So, all right, question number 2. Don Owens has written in. He says, how is WB courting Miller if they already signed Zack Snyder to do Justice League 1 and 2? Now, what he's referring to is George Miller, the director of Road Warrior. He at one time was making a Justice League movie called Justice League Mortal. It was like, I believe it was in 2004 and 5. It was in development.
Justice League babies.
Yeah, they were all youngsters. Maxwell Lord, who was like a famous character in the 80s version of the Justice League when the thing was reborn and rebirthed by like Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis and drawn by the amazing Kevin Maguire, who did all these like weird faces. Like, I wonder, like he was the one who like kind of put that face stuff on the map. Like people like Booster Gold or Blue Beetle, like, I'm not sure if you're going to be doing that, weird. Like I remember as a kid, I loved those faces. And it was like, that's one of those unique things that I always remember, like that particular type of drawing style, like Fire and Ice are arguing over like who's going to get the last ice cubes with these two hot girls with superpowers. Of course, Kevin Maguire would draw amazingly beautiful ladies too. So there was that kind of thing that was happening with Justice League at the time, and I think that's where this movie was coming from. They were having that kind of flavor. I don't know, it would be worth trying to read the script, Justice League Mortal. It's available online, but All I do know is, a lot of sets were built, they were cast, there's costumes, all that kind of stuff.
Army Hammer was Batman.
Yeah. So, and Common was Green Lantern.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people were cast. I mean, it was DJ Caruso was Superman. It's like, yeah, right. A couple of O's. So it was like, hey, but you know what? I think Megan Hale, all these people who are in Road Warrior now. She was going to play Wonder Woman. Now she's in Fury Road. The guy who was going to play Martian Manhunter actually plays the crazy guy with the mask on in Fury Road. So George Miller keeps his people around. He's like, now you're coming with me. It might be 18 years, but you're coming with me. So, like he was on set on Suicide Squad. Look, he's part of the Warner Brothers family right now. He's got a hit movie. Who knows why he was on set for Suicide Squad? I don't think he's like jumping in direct Suicide Squad. I mean, Ayers is directing Suicide Squad. Is he going to be involved in something else? That's where the rumors start. Hey, are they going to bring him in? Maybe. They got a whole bunch of movies that are on the slate with no directors attached. So far, the only director attached is Zack Snyder to Justice League. That's it. You got 8 or 9 other movies. Someone has to make them. Why not have the guy who just made one of the most incredible action films of this year perhaps direct one? A guy who's like on the map, also can handle pigs and penguins. If you need some singing, if you need a singing moment.
Can you imagine though, if Mad Max Fury Road had not come out now, right?
Right.
And people are talking, George Miller is going to direct Cyborg or whatever, right? Everybody be the Babe guy,
Right.
the guy
Happy
who did
Feet.
Babe and Happy Feet. But,
Cyborg gonna sing?
but I mean, yeah, keep in mind, there are more Warner Brothers DC films than Justice League 1 and 2. I don't think he's going to be involved in Justice League 1 and 2. Well, sorry, let me change that word. It's not that I don't think he won't be involved, but he will not be directing Justice League 1 or 2. That is going to be Zack Snyder. But like Schnepp is saying, there's a lot of other DC movies that don't have Helmers right now, so he could fit into almost
I could see
any
him
of
do
them.
Aquaman.
He could do
Oh,
I think he would be
a
bad.
badass Aquaman.
He could do Man of Steel too. Like if Zach is jumping over to, and who's to say George Miller is not going to direct Batman?
It's gonna be all practical. He's gonna be Henry Cavill fly.
I know.
You're gonna fly now.
You fly
Right,
now.
right. It has to be practical.
Yeah.
Why is everyone stuck on this
Jump
practical
off this
thing?
building.
It must be practical. I know, but I could really hurt myself. Just do it. We have these thin wires. I don't want to do it.
Bank robbers shoot Superman.
Yeah.
Go.
We have real bullets. Yeah, it'd be like a crazy thing. All right, let's move on. So we don't know what's going to happen with Miller.
we don't.
I just hope he's involved in some way because the guy's a mad talent and he's 70, so get him on something quick. Question number 3 comes from Hamza Noman. Do you think Marvel made mistakes in announcing their Phase 3 as people now expect a build-up for all these other movies and plots? Dennis, what do you think?
I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, I understand where people are coming from. People are upset because it ruins the element of surprise. Now that for example, we knew Captain America Civil War was coming. You knew Captain America wasn't going to die in Avengers Age of Ultron, right? So people are kind of like upset about that. But this is a business. There's a studio. They want to tease stuff as far in advance as they can. They want to get fans excited. They want to get their investors excited. They want, the board at Disney to be like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They're confident in what they're doing. So while I understand fans' kind of reaction to it, they want more surprises. I think it's still the right move.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with what Marvel's doing here, especially in this whole notion of now fans are expecting a build-up to that. No, they're not. No, they're not. 1% of the people who follow the comic books and are really plugged in get it. My mom, who goes to every single comic book superhero movie out there because she's a big fan of them, she doesn't care squat about if this builds up to that, and neither does the average movie-going person. They're not expecting that. Now, to the other issue about, well, they announced all these movies and now we knew Captain America wasn't going to die. Yeah, but you got to understand, we live now in an age, we always come back to this, but it's true. We live in an age where everybody carries a global communications audio and video device in their pockets. Marvel understands you cannot keep any of this under wraps. In today's world, you just can't. So how do we want the public to know? Rumors and reports and things out there that just confuse everybody? Or do we get ahead of it, take control of the narrative, and just hey, everybody, here's what it is? And look, knowing that Captain America wasn't going to die in Avengers Age of Ultron, if you consider that a spoiler, then you're saying, oh, James Bond is going to be in James Bond 25. Then you're saying that's a spoiler too. You're a little bit of crazy if you think they're going to kill off Captain America, because they're not. So Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's a non-issue. Once again, brought up by those of us who are in the 1% and failing to understand how the 99% look at it, which is really the bigger deal.
Though, wouldn't it be exciting?
Yes.
If Captain America did die in his own movie,
And it was a big misdirect. Absolutely.
It very well could be. So, don't just because Marvel says Captain America is going to be, he's definitely showing up in Infinity Wars. They said, I believe they did say that someone else was, I'm not going to give you spoilers because Avengers is still early, but someone else was cast and said to be appearing in other movies. And, they might not be there right now because of certain things that happened in Age of Ultron. So misdirects have happened many times, and I wouldn't be surprised if a very big misdirect would be coming at us in Civil War, and why not? Why shouldn't
Well, now Chris Evans did say too. Chris Evans did say he was doing an interview and talking about how like his next 9 months, or not the next 9 months, but he's got 9 months of his time are completely blocked off because he's shooting Infinity War back to back.
Sure,
So-
but that could be like 5 of those 9 months are him like reading a book and like writing a script while he's only shooting part 2 of Infinity Wars. If they're shooting him all back to back, he might not be in every
Well,
single
he said
scene.
9 months of his are booked, so
No,
I don't know.
I believe
Maybe.
I believe the book they're booked, but they're like, you're here on this week, and then this is the part where you're not in, the first movie, so you'll just be chilling and do whatever you want. But you're, they're just shaving out his time where it's like you're committed to these 2 movies, maybe not. I don't know. I would. It's like, remember, Lord of the Rings, there was all those characters. They had to be booked out for those 2 years, but they weren't in every single scene. Some of the characters were only shot for 2 weeks, but other people were there for the whole 2 years, but they were, they were like the Hobbits who were like, hey, we're not shooting you this for these 3 weeks. Just hang out and do whatever
Yeah, but
you want.
a lot of these actors, they will be on one set, and then if they've got a 1 or 2 week break, they fly to the other side of the country and they shoot this other movie or TV show back and forth. So my interpretation of it, you could be right. My interpretation of it was that the way Chris Evans was talking in that interview was, I'm booked for 9 months. So it sounds like he's not being able to work on
I just
anything
mentally
else.
like to keep it open because I want to imagine
It would be a
that there's
great misdirect. I hope you're right.
But everyone has to remember, we live in this bubble, right? Most of the people don't know the fact that Chris Evans is booked for Infinity War, right? We live in this bubble. It probably blow people's minds. Most casual fans have no clue that these movies are in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3,
Yeah.
right?
They don't even know what we're talking about with
they'll be like,
phase.
what? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
but for
right.
us, we're like, what?
Yeah.
You have to know what this means.
I love the fact that Marvel created this whole phase anything. Why? Because it forced everybody else to throw down the gauntlet. Because Marvel said, look, check out these next 5 years. This is what we're doing. And they put dates down. That forced their other friends, the competition, to like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing with all your characters? You saw that DC had to be like, sprinkle. They had to throw down their 5-year gauntlet. And when they threw their gauntlet down, what happened? Sony was like, we got like 7,000 Spider-Man movies coming out. And then all these other people were like, well, we have Valiant, we have Boom, we have this, we have that. So all these other companies were like trying to lay down their logs to like, here's our next 5-6 years all the way to 2020. We're still in the middle of 2015. So as film going fans, we can thank Marvel for doing that, because that kind of forced a lot of other companies, even if they weren't 100% sure on what they're doing, to get their act together. Because though they're not called phase 1 or 2, it's phase something. Whatever all these other companies are doing, they're like, DC, Warner Brothers has to have a name for whatever their first, Unite the Seven. It has to be some thing, the branding of some type that will unite all of these different movies, whether it be Justice League and then an outro of that. It's just a cool time to be a cinematic superhero fan for sure, because we're getting like a cream of the crop, like bigger budget type of thing, as opposed to like just make it for as little as possible and put it in the kiddie aisle. It's taken on a different level and a different extreme as far as like it's a financial thing now. So when it becomes a financial thing, you don't want it to suffer like Green Lantern. So hopefully people are learning from what mistakes they've gone through. Big companies are like, if we're going to make a cinematic universe, get someone who could tie it together. I know Zack Snyder isn't the guy who's binding all of the DC universe together. People are saying, where's our leader? Where's our Kevin Feige? I don't know who it's going to be yet. I mean, it seems like it's Zack Snyder by default right now. So, or is it David Goyer? Who do you guys think it is?
I think it's his name. Why is his name Kevin Tsujihara? I really do. And I think and I don't think. Here's the thing. I really like what Kevin Tsujihara who is the new sheriff. New, I guess we can't call him new anymore, but who's the sheriff over at Warner Brothers. Like, he runs the whole kit and caboodle. I have really liked what he has done. However, I think he's starting to drop the ball a bit on, because right now the DC Cinematic Universe, as it's, well, we have one movie, but as it seems to be structuring up, it seems disjointed and there's a little bit of chaos to it right now. Whereas with Marvel, they have a plan, everything is specced out. They have one guy at the helm who's saying, hey, this movie's going to do this movie's going to do this. Whereas those reports going around that, yeah, the filmmakers on each individual, we're just going to give them freedom to do whatever they want. That sounds real nice, but at the end of the day, it makes for a very disjointed, confusing cinematic universe that may or may not work. I think Kevin Tsujihara has done a great job up to this point, but I think what really is important for Tsujihara to do now is to appoint a new sheriff for their DC properties. Bring in somebody, I don't care who, and say, all the creative stuff is going to flow through this person. He's not going to be the originator of it all, but it's all going to come through him to be the one who's going to coordinate to make sure we make a cohesive cinematic universe and it doesn't all go completely to pot. Right. Because I think there's a little bit of danger of that right now, and I hope they can correct that fast.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's move on to the next question. It's by Jay Newby. He asks, should Matthew McConaughey go with DC Comics? He would make a great Riddler.
Well, Matthew McConaughey would make a great anything. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. He's a great actor, so he would be a great anything at all. Riddler, sure, but the people who've been talking to him, the Riddler's not going to have a 4-film arc,
right?
So he's going to be, that would be a one and done. So I'm not really interested in getting one of the world's best actors for a one and done. I want to see him in something that's going to have some longevity. So I probably see him being more in a hero role.
Sure.
So that's how I see it anyway.
Yeah, franchise. It has to be a franchise type of character for him to come in. If he's, he talked about he wants to get paid as well. He wants it to be interesting. I just don't think a one-shot Riddler is enough to get him in there.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I picked Hawkman when we were just talking about McConaughey, because he came out and straight up had like a great 2-paragraph thing just explaining his process of thinking about taking on any role, not just a superhero role, but specifically a big budget kind of franchise. How he thinks about it, it's very methodical and it makes sense. He's a smart guy. There's a lot of characters in DC and Marvel that he could, we said Warlock yesterday, he could possibly be Warlock. The more I thought about it, it's like that could be a really good fit, but you never know. So, I mean, it's up to him. He's a great actor, so he'll probably be great in anything. So, absolutely. All right, so we've come to our very last question. It's called the bonus extra sweaty question of the week. Comes from Justin Iotti. He writes, do you guys think Universal could make a deal with Fox to make a Hulk versus Wolverine movie? Once again, remember, this is the extra sweaty question of the week. So what do you guys think? Hulk versus Wolverine, is it going to ever happen?
No.
I'd love to see it, but no.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, let me rephrase that. I don't want to see a Hulk versus Wolverine movie. Really? I'd love to see a Hulk versus Wolverine 5-minute special thrown up on the internet. That'd be cool. Stretch that out over a theatrical film. Not interested.
I'd be interested if Wolverine was actually part of, let's say, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they made it actually part of the canon of that universe. Not just have a one-off movie where they fight each other.
Right.
But if it's kind of like the Batman v Superman thing, that's part of what the DCCU is. Right. If they made it part of the MCU, I'd be for it. But I don't think rights-wise that's going to happen.
I agree 100% with you. Like we were talking about the 5 minutes SmackDown, like that. Yeah. I mean, there's a 5-minute Superman versus Hulk, all CG. It's like the Christopher Reeve Superman fighting an all CG Hulk. Have you guys seen that?
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
I think it's older too. I think it's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's been around, but it's really well done. They're fighting out in the desert.
Because when Superman gets punched in the face, you can tell it's old CG, because when he gets punched in the face, he's just
right. Someone did it updated, they re-rendered it or something. There was an older version.
Oh, I haven't seen the re-render.
There's a newer part 2 or whatever. So if you watch it, it's a little bit longer, and the last part is better than the first part. But it's exactly what you would expect. The Hulk is beating the hell out of Superman. Superman finally is like, all right, I'm done letting this guy just punch me around, and then beats the hell out of him. So it's like
it's fun.
It's
a real fun thing.
I mean, but that's kind of how I feel like Wolverine versus the Hulk would be. Only a whole hour of them talking or set up in order to have that, and it's like
the Hulk can't even talk.
Well, I just mean I mean Bruce Banner, like, who is this strange Canadian? Or like, hey, Bob, I'm not going to make you angry or whatever.
Why do you sound like a 1920s gangster?
Yeah.
Why did Wolverine?
Listen here, bub. Snicked. Yeah, I'm not going to make me
see?
angry. Yeah, see? There's a little Edgar G. Robinson as Wolverine. That would be fantastic.
I mean, I would love to see an Old Man Logan movie, but the problem with that is Hulk's a big part of that, and a bunch of other MCU characters.
Hawkeye's a big part of that.
Yeah, so it's like how do you make that movie without those character rights?
Now that is a way that you would be able to like hopefully make some kind of negotiations with Fox and be like, look, let's all share some money on this to do an Old Man Logan. Bring Hugh Jackman back in 10 years.
Yeah.
Let him take a break. But we know we're pulling that guy back.
I think you'd have to get somebody else. You know why
Really?
you'd have to get somebody else? Because I think here's a universe in where this could work. You say, let's get these rights together, but the only way I think those studios would ever agree to it is that they got to agree that what we make here is in no way confused with what we've got going on in our cinematic universe.
Yes.
We make a total Elseworlds kind of thing, which means you'd have to go no actor who's ever played Wolverine, no actor who's ever played Hulk, just recast all of it and do it. Like, I'm always like, these studios don't know how to play together right. But that's a scenario
I like that. That makes sense, too,
could
because
work.
then it's shared, and then you can get all these big names to come in just for a one-off.
For one shot. You don't have to sign them to 5 film deals.
One film.
One Elseworld.
Joaquin Phoenix, get over here and play Bruce Banner. You only got to be one film.
yeah.
Bam. He'd
would
be
be
like,
awesome.
he'd get all weird for a minute, and then be like, all right, I'll sign it. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. I don't know if he really would do that.
Shuffle.
We love you, Joaquin. So, all right, that's it for our show, guys. Let's thank everybody who's here. John Campea, where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, just at John Campea, and make sure you watch AMC Movie Talk every single day.
Dennis, how about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero, on Instagram, Dennis.tzeng, and sometimes on AMC Movie Talk as well.
Right on. He's the man behind the controls, the comm. He's here every day. So if you ever want to shout out to Dennis. I'm Jon Schnepp. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, just at Jon Schnepp and at TDOSLWH. I'll be at MCM London Comic-Con with my producer, gal, fiance, Holly Payne. We'll be in London. So if you're a UK sweaty, get your tickets right now. Saturday is, I'm pretty sure, sold out. They opened a few tickets left. Friday's got about 30 or 40 tickets left. Get your tickets to see The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. It's my documentary film. We'll be in London for 10 days, and we're going to be screening it at a couple places, but that's the place where you can see it, the May 22nd and 23rd, and I'll see you guys later next week.